All right, you guys, happy Monday. I hope you all had a great weekend. We have a lot to get into. I think we should definitely start, by the way, with Russell Brand. Did you guys see the news over the weekend? He's been charged with rape and sexual assault in the UK for incidents that are stemming back to 1999. And I'm dying to hear what you guys think about that. It really comes down to, I think, an interesting debate that needs to be had about the statute of limitations, which do not exist in the UK, hence the charges. Also, Joe Rogan has paid us a massive podcast compliment. Sort of. He called me a monster, but in a good way, I promise you. And there is also evidence, circumstantial evidence, that Ryan Reynolds authored the infamous dragon text message. Remember Taylor, one of our dragons? I think Ryan Reynolds was the one who wrote that, and I'll tell you why. Let's get right into it. Welcome back to Candace. All right, so where should we begin? Let me take you guys back on a trip to 1999, okay? Let's just all get into the time machine. I was 10 years old. The number one song in the United States was TLC's No Scrub. Take a listen. No, I don't want no scrub. The scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me. Yep, I know that is now going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the day. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, actually. This was a great time, great song. Also, Britney Spears. Let's not forget, she was just beginning to top the charts. She came out with her first song, her debut song, Baby One More Time. Remember this? Hit me, baby, one more time. Man, that actually makes me sad. She looks so young, so innocent. So much has changed. Gosh, in just 25 years, Britney Spears. You had to be Team Christina or Team Britney. Christina also came out that year with her debut song, Genie in the Bottle. Also, the number one movie, or a movie that had just come out, rather, it wasn't number one just yet, was The Matrix, which I feel like we're maybe living in right now, but remember this.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Sometimes I really wish that I had just taken the blue pill. My life would be so simple if I had just taken the blue pill, but I kind of snorted the red pill, and here we all are. When it comes to technology, the internet was relatively new, definitely a new phenomenon. We were using broadband and high-speed dial-up via cable modems. We all remember the sound. That was maybe not the best sound effect there, but you know what I'm saying, when you were trying to dial up and connect. And that was really just the beginning of the internet becoming widely available to everyone. And let's also not forget in 1999 that we were planning for Y2K, the apocalypse. Everybody was terrified. I was 10 and I remember hearing so much chatter about whether or not the world was going to end. And for a 10-year-old, that's quite frightening. So I was terrified. I just remember being terrified. For whatever reason, we thought we were like Cinderella at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Day. We were all just going to go poof. In terms of politics, Bill Clinton had just been acquitted in his impeachment trials for his affair with Monica Lewinsky. And the very first camera phone, not to be confused with a flip phone or an iPhone, but the very first camera phone was introduced in Japan. And here's what it looked like. It was called a mobile video phone. And in terms of, if you're wondering, what about cell phones? Nope, we weren't there yet. The company Research in Motion, also known as RIM, which would later on become BlackBerry, released a pager that could receive emails in 1999. So that was like, whoa, your pager can receive an email. Another thing that's kind of weird to think about is you were allowed to just get on the airplane. Yeah, 9/11 hadn't happened, so you could just meet your friends at the airport gate, like the old school movies, hold up a sign. This was the land before security checks. Now we're effectively strip searched. It just feels like it really was just a different time. It's hard to imagine a world with beeper pagers. And I have to be honest, if you watch the show, I'm totally nostalgic for that. If I'm being completely honest, it seems like things were much simpler. Now, to be very clear, that was 26 years ago. It really does feel like a lifetime ago. Whoever you are today, you likely don't even recognize or remember who you were then. Your brain, like mine, may not have even been developed. And that was my exact thought when I saw this headline pop up. Russell Brand has been charged with multiple accounts of rape and sexual assault in the United Kingdom, stemming from incidents which took place in 1999. Okay. Starting in 1999, ending in 2003. A couple of things that I'm just going to say right off the bat. I'm always honest and upfront with you guys about any biases I may have. Obviously, I've had the pleasure of getting to know this current iteration of Russell Brand, the Russell Brand that is today 50 years old. He's now a baptized Christian. You guys know he's a part of the story, a crazy part of the Cupid story of how I met my husband. I was doing a podcast with Russell Brand for 3 hours. I was late to meet my husband, late to meet the rest of my life, so to speak. And he was fantastic. I had a great time with him. And I have seen him thereafter, watched him grow spiritually, watched him grow from a communist, really, to the person that he is today that's praying the rosary every day. But we all know that Russell Brand was not always the person that he is today. How do we know? Because Russell Brand wrote all about it. He told us all about it. He had a autobiography that was published back in 2007 entitled My Bookie Wookie. And in the book, he detailed his troubled childhood, his past drug addictions. We learned from Russell that he struggled with bulimia, that he ran away from home when he was 14 years old, and that by the age of 16, he started experimenting with drugs like cannabis, LSD, ecstasy, you name it, amphetamines. We also know from Russell Brand that he struggled with sex addiction. That was a big part of the picture for him. And like I said, all of these descriptions are a very far cry from the Russell Brand that I know today. And despite him having published this book in 2007, admitting to all of his prior faults and addictions, and despite Russell Brand then taking Hollywood by storm. And when I say taking Hollywood by storm, I mean not just in the movies that we grew to love, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, you name it. He also married Katy Perry, a pop star. He has been in the public eye, the point I am making here, for decades, in movies, as a television anchor. And yet no allegations regarding his past behavior had ever surfaced, not until September of 2023. And here's what happened, in case you don't remember. In September of 2023, Channel 4 of the UK and the Sunday Times in the UK dropped a devastating investigative piece with claims from 4 different women, and they were alleging that they had been sexually assaulted or raped by Russell Brand between 2006 and 2013. I just want to be very clear here because that might be confusing to you. The current case that just happened in the UK, that is not featuring these women that spoke with Channel 4 and the Sunday Times back in 2023, but it is the reason that this current case exists. It was because of this piece, this investigative piece, that other women were allegedly inspired to reach out to the London Metro Police with their own claims, their own memories, stemming from incidents that occurred between 1999 and 2004. And the London Metropolitan Police announced that they are now acting on those claims, moving to charge Russell Brand with 1 count of rape, oral rape, and indecent assault, and 2 other counts of sexual assault. What are your thoughts? I actually genuinely need to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. What are you thinking when you hear something like that? And I know that they're going to be all over the spectrum. Let's at first listen to what Russell Brand had to say for himself when the news broke. Here he is.
I've always told you guys that when I was young and single, before I had my wife and family, were just out of shot over there, my beautiful children, I was a fool, man. I was a fool before I lived in the light of the Lord. I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile. But what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes. I want to thank all of you for your continuing support. I want to let you know that our show will be on Rumble on Monday. Thanks for your support there. And of course, I'm now going to have the opportunity to defend these charges in court, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. In the meantime, you lot, stay free, and we will be continuing to discuss this matter. Praise the Lord.
So he seems calm and he seems collected, and I think he's asking some very meaningful questions that we have been asking a lot on this show as well. Like, have we just begun weaponizing the government? It is kind of incredible when you weigh it against the cases that aren't pursued. When you think about Jeffrey Epstein, we think about the fact that we still can't get the client list, that we have politicians who are roaming free. When we think about the fact that Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte are in charge of France, it's just something really sadistic and wrong is going on there. And then you do start to see more and more that you have individuals who seem to have upset the government one way or other, and all of a sudden allegations come out. That's how it seems to me, at least. And I'll tell you some more of my thoughts here. I think the statute of limitations for crimes has always been controversial, and I do see both sides of the argument. To be clear, first and foremost, how do you defend yourself when you are being accused of something that you did 26 years ago? I mean, really think about that. How on earth are you supposed to defend yourself? Where I live doesn't even exist anymore. Buildings are taken down. This is really the time before you could have all of this evidence that you could maybe pull and say, actually, no, I wasn't there. You can check my cell phone data, or here I am actually proving to you that I was somewhere else when she says that I was there, because you don't remember where you were 26 years ago. That's really difficult for the defense to try to come up with something when they don't even know that they're being accused of something until 26 years on. Now, on the flip side of that, you might say, well, no one would say, well, so what? We know it happened, but he got away with it. Who cares? No one cares that you were raped or sexually assaulted because it's been more than 2 years. It's weird, right? It's like a push and a pull here where you just don't know which side is more rational. But I do think it is reasonable to expect someone to, at the very least, report a crime before 25 years. I think that's a reasonable expectation to say, at least report the crime before 25 years. Because and by the way, this may be the circumstance, if someone does report it and the police fail to act on it, or if maybe technology advances, you see a lot of these in criminal scenarios where they'll be like, well, we didn't have the technology, now we have a DNA technology and we can arrest this guy 20 years later, and that feels good and you applaud. But if the crime wasn't even reported, I don't know. I really don't know. And I also want to say that I think about how unfathomable it must be for Russell Brand's wife. Couldn't even imagine, right? I'm about to birth my 4th child, and I can't imagine that 20 years from now, George and I get a phone call from the police in London, and they're like, you know what? We've got George in for a crime that he committed 26 years ago. I mean, that would just completely rip a hole through your life, that you have to fight this. And knowing that your children, what are your children going to think about this? What is the children going to think about their father? You've got to just go to court and do your best to try to prove your innocence if you are in fact innocent. Right now, I want to be clear, we do not know the details of these specific cases in the UK. We should find them out in a little bit of time. The women very well, like I said, may have reported it back in 1999. The current articles that I'm reading doesn't make it seem like it. It seems more like they got inspired by something that was in the press, and then they decided to come forward. But they may have, let's keep it open. They may have concrete evidence. They may have been keeping concrete evidence throughout this entire time. Maybe they had a beeper email or a regular email between themselves and Russell. Who knows? We can't really judge a situation until we have more information. But I do think it's worth us just discussing as a society why it seems to be the picture that when people are drug addicts and they are, dealing with mental psychoses and things of that nature, Hollywood loves them. They love them. They celebrate them. They celebrate them stumbling out of the club, drunk, making it seem like it's all cool. And then it routinely feels like when those individuals start to clean up their lives, Hollywood comes knocking. Suddenly people are going, oh, that person that they seem like they've gone straight line. Let me tell you about who this person really is. Let me tell you about who this person was when they were an addict. I find that to be something that doesn't feel authentic. And again, zero judgment yet. We don't know the details of this case. We are obviously going to be watching this case, but I wanted to let you know that it's happening. And Russell Brand, I consider him to be a friend of mine. And so I will be covering this case extensively when we know more.